download our Revise It Right revision app for hundreds of videos, quizzes, exam questions, tutor support and so much more. This video is about risk factors and non-communicable diseases. Now, risk factors are factors that increase the chances of developing a particular disease. And we'll remember that a non-communicable disease is a disease which cannot be passed on. It cannot be spread. And therefore, we can say that non-communicable diseases are of course not caused by pathogens, they're not caused by bacteria, viruses. So then it becomes interesting as to what actually causes them. And this is where we can talk about risk factors, because we're not saying that risk factors cause the disease. So we're not saying that just because you do this, you're going to get a disease. But what risk factors is it's increasing the chances of developing a particular disease. So for example, a non-communicable disease could be lung cancer. And a risk factor, so something that increases your chances of getting lung cancer, is smoking. Okay, now again, we are not saying that smoking will definitely cause lung cancer. There are many smokers who will not develop lung cancer. However, it's a risk factor. And what we mean by that is it increases the chances of getting the disease. So because they're not caused by pathogens, we have to study what does cause them, and that's where risk factors come in. Now, there are around 1.1 billion smokers worldwide, and there are many parts of smoking that are risk factors for other diseases and not just lung cancer. So first of all, as we know, smoking contains nicotine. Now, nicotine is the addictive substance but harmless drug that's found in tobacco smoke. It produces a sensation of calm, well-being and able to cope. Now, carbon monoxide is something else that is also found in tobacco smoke, and it takes the space of oxygen in the body. So it replaces oxygen and attaches to the hemoglobin in your blood. This means that your blood cells cannot carry as much oxygen as they should. Now, why is this a problem? Well, it can lead to fainting, it can lead to strokes, and it can even lead to death. So, not good. It's also an issue to smoke during pregnancy, as the fetus may not get enough oxygen. So this is why we suggest that you shouldn't smoke during pregnancy, as the growing baby, the embryo, the fetus, isn't getting enough oxygen, which can lead to premature birth, low birth weight, and even stillbirth. Now, another toxic chemical that you find in smoking is tar. This is a sticky black chemical that accumulates on the lungs. So sticky and accumulates on the lungs. The buildup of tar can obstruct and lead to pulmonary diseases, as it can break down the structure of alveoli and bronchioles. It's also a carcinogen, which means it increases, as we said here, the chances of lung cancer. Okay, so many lung diseases as well as lung cancer. And smokers are also more likely to suffer from cardiovascular problems. Now remember, a cardiovascular disease is a disease of the heart and blood vessels. What smoking can do is narrow the blood vessels in your skin, which can age it. Nicotine also makes your heart rate increase, so it increases your heart rate. Now, why is this a problem? Well, it can damage the walls in your blood vessels and therefore increase the risk of a blood clot, which can then in turn increase blood pressure even more, increasing the risk of cardiovascular problems, including heart attacks if we're having a blockage or a clot in the coronary artery, or strokes if we're having a blood or a clot in a blood vessel leading to the brain. So you can see here lots of issues of smoking, and you can see why they are a risk factor for many different diseases, because they contain nicotine, carbon dioxide and tar. Remember to download our Revise It Right revision app, watch over 700 videos, answer 4,000 plus quiz questions, over 1,000 flashcards, 1,000 exam questions, worksheets, forums, and get help from qualified teachers and so much more. The link is in the description. Now, very simply, if you eat more food than you need, it is stored as fat. Now, fat is a good cushion for your internal organs and does act as an energy store, but too much fat can lead to being overweight and obese. And obesity and being overweight is a risk factor, therefore it increases the chances of many particular non-communicable diseases. So, for example, people who regularly exercise are much fitter and have fitter hearts. They are also much less likely to develop cardiovascular disease, and therefore obesity or being overweight is a risk factor for cardiovascular disease. And again, we're not saying that it will definitely cause cardiovascular disease, but it does increase the chances. So some causal mechanisms that can explain why exercise keeps us healthy are if you have more muscle tissue, you're increasing your metabolic rate, which means you're less likely to be overweight, which is going to reduce your blood pressure. It also is going to lower blood cholesterol and therefore lower the risk of heart disease. But we can put that in reverse. We can say if you have too much fat, you can increase your blood pressure and therefore increase the chances of developing a cardiovascular disease. Obesity can also be a risk factor for type 2 diabetes, which we do talk about a bit later on in another topic. But this is for now, this is where your body either doesn't make enough insulin or your cells stop responding to insulin, which can lead to problems in circulation, kidney function and eyesight, and even potentially death. Okay, so what you need to be aware of that is that obesity is a risk factor for many different diseases, potentially cardiovascular diseases due to increasing blood pressure and also to type 2 diabetes. So here is your questions. Pause the video to have a go. Okay, state 3 components of tobacco smoke. Well, you've got tar, you've got nicotine, and you've got carbon monoxide. What is the effect on nicotine on your body? Well, first of all, it's addictive and it can increase your heart rate, therefore in turn increase blood pressure. What effect does carbon monoxide have on the smoker? Well, it takes the place of oxygen, which means less oxygen can be carried around the body, which can then further lead to fainting or strokes or even death. What effect can smoking have on unborn babies? Well, it can reduce their oxygen and therefore not give them enough oxygen, which can eventually lead to things like premature birth or stillbirth. What are carcinogens? Carcinogens is something that causes cancer. What effect can tar have on the body? Well, it's sticky and it can accumulate and stick to the lungs to cause many lung diseases, including lung cancer. And how does smoking affect the heart and blood vessels? Well, as we just said, with nicotine, it can increase your heart rate. Now, if your heart rate's increased, it's going to damage your blood vessels more. Okay, you just got to think if blood's going down much quicker, it's going to knock into the walls of your blood vessels more and therefore damage them, which could lead to increased blood pressure and clotting. Now, depending on where this clot is, could lead to many different issues. So if it's a clot leading to the heart, it could lead to a heart attack. If it's a clot leading to the brain, it could lead to a stroke. So we've now then looked at risk factors for non-communicable diseases. There are plenty more practice questions on the website and as ever. If there's anything you didn't quite understand, do get in contact with a tutor who will happily help.